Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has issued a statement on US-Canada trade amidst US President Donald Trump's latest tariffs onslaught. Carney reacted to Trump's imposition of 35% tariffs on products outside the scope of the US-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, saying he was disappointed by the decision. Carney stated, while the Canadian government is disappointed by this action, we remain committed to CUSMA, which is the world's second largest free trade agreement by trading volume. He also stated that US tariffs have heavily impacted sectors like steel, auto, aluminium, and the Canadian Prime Minister asserted that the country would act to protect its sector and jobs. Joining me on the telecast is Brian Thomas. Brian, take us through the details that are coming in terms of the statement that has been given by Mark Carney.
President Trump has announced the United States would raise tariffs to 35% on Canadian exports that are not covered under the CUSMA, which is also the Canadian-United States-Mexico agreement. Now, while the move is disappointing, Canada remains fully committed to CUSMA, which is also world's second largest free trade agreement by volume, and that is what Mark Carney had to say. And under the CUSMA also, which is also called the CUSMA, the average US tariffs on Canadian goods remain among the lowest applied to any of America's trading partners. However, certain sectors such as lumber, steel, aluminium, and automotive continue to face significant duties and tariffs. In response to that as well, the Canadian government will be taking decisive action to protect jobs, boost their industrial competitiveness, support Canadian-made products, and expand their global export markets. Now, the U.S. also cited that fentanyl trafficking as justification for this latest trade measure. However, Canada accounts for just 1% of the fentanyl imports into the U.S. and are taking aggressive steps to drive that number even lower. They said that the government is also making historic investments in border and national security, recruiting thousands of new border and law enforcement officers, enhancing aerial surveillance, upgrading intelligence operations, and enforcing the strongest border legislation in the history. Now, these efforts are also aimed at dismantling drug trafficking networks, combating organized crime, and also ending migrant smuggling. They said that they will also continue working closely with the United States to combat the fentanyl crisis and also save lives on both sides of the border. While trade negotiations with the U.S. are continuing, their focus remains on strengthening what they can control, which is Canada. And together with provinces, territories, and indigenous partners, the federal government is advancing major national building projects aimed at removing international trade barriers and building one unified Canadian economy. And these efforts have the potential to generate over $500 billion in new investment, and Canadians will be the architect of their own economic future, as stated. By investing in Canadian workers, the Canadian industries, and Canadian resources, they will create well-paying jobs, expanding global trade, and ensure that no foreign action can outweigh the power of strong, united, and self-reliant Canada.